Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dayton Sports Huddle. We're here at Submarine House in Centerville, and my name is Jeff Lauterbach, the co-host with my fellow co-host Richie Moody. And Richie, obviously, we've talked a lot about the importance of local sports and really the great athletes that have come through Dayton, and we have one here today, Mr. John Lumpkin. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you guys having me.
And I think the most interesting story that a lot of people will know about, but maybe some people don't, is John is one of the few Ohio State athletes to play both football and basketball at the same time, or during the same years. I imagine there has been maybe someone who played football 1 year and gave it up and played basketball, but you did it both for how many years?
All four years. Missed one basketball season because I had a stress fracture in my foot, but one of 5 guys in the history of Ohio State athletics to do both for all 4 years.
Yeah, and probably coming from small schools like we came from, playing 3 sports and then still continuing going 2 sports at Trotwood. What was that like, as far as academics, and then how did you probably had to be a master at efficiency and managing your time, right?
Oh yeah, time management was a big thing. And then Trotwood, when I went there, we had like 1,300 students. It was a bigger school than what it is currently. We're down a couple hundred, but yeah, I had always played multiple sports. So from the time I was 5, 6 years old, I was playing a sport. It was always football season, then basketball season, then baseball season, and it all started over again. So it was nothing really different for me. Academic-wise, I graduated like a 3.8 GPA. So academics has always been first in our household. I still do the same thing with my kids. It's academics first. Sports is a privilege, not a right. You have to go to school, and just carry that over into Ohio State. It was a little more difficult in basketball in college because you play during the week and you might be in Minnesota or somewhere like that, so you had to take your schoolwork with you. But I was pretty good with time management.
Yeah, I'll take the first tangent here, Jeff. But with doing multiple sports versus what the kids are doing now, and most of them are obviously focused on one. What's your opinion on that versus when we grew up, we played multiple sports?
Well, I think you should play multiple sports because the sports help one another, and plus a lot of times people pigeonhole their kids and they're like, oh, they're going to be a basketball player. We don't know that. I think as a kid, you should play as many things as you can. Like some people are like, wow, why are they playing baseball? Well, baseball is great for hand-eye coordination. If you can hit a fastball, it's pretty much, you can do pretty much anything. Your footwork and stuff in soccer will help you for football. Toughness in football helps you for basketball. There's always something from the other sports that can help with the other one. So I think kids should play as many. I don't like that specialization of a kid at such a young age.
And it's leading to so many injuries with baseball, Tommy John surgery, football, playing, especially down in Florida, states like that where you can play year-round, leads to a lot of other types of injuries. And
it does, and it just doesn't make for a well-rounded kid. Most of the people that you see that are elite athletes, even at the next level, have played multiple sports. Everybody talks about, oh man, look at LeBron James, he basketball. He was an all-state football player. Allen Iverson, all-state football player. He played basketball. Guys play, they play multiple things. I don't think specializing helps as much as what people are playing into.
Do you consider, because I've had several conversations with parents, I've obviously got younger kids as well as you, and a lot of the parents come back to me and they say, well, what about speed development? What about introducing them to weight training? What's your feelings on those? Well,
speed development, learning how to run, I will say this, I wish that I would have learned how to run, more so than just being able to run and just being athletic. Like both my kids run track. But my wife was a track athlete, and they're both pretty good at it, but them learning how to run at a younger age, because I really didn't learn how to run, the difference between like running for distance versus running in sprints. It was just, I used to get out there and run. Now as far as weight training goes, I think that kids should use body weight stuff for conditioning as they're younger, because as you're growing, you've got growth platelets and things that you can mess a kid up by lifting weights too soon. I think, me personally, I think 8th grade is when you should start doing some lighter things, because your body's just matured more. I mean, people are in such a rush with their kids to try to get them to that elite athlete stage, and sometimes they'll end up hindering them, and not because they're trying to. It's just everybody's trying to get an edge.
Yeah.
Now, when you were being recruited, what were some of the major schools that, in addition to Ohio State, that were recruiting you, and how difficult was it to choose or to have a school allow you to play both sports?
Well, that essentially is what made my mind up to go, because I was able to play both. Both Randy Ayers and John Cooper were the ones recruiting me over at Ohio State. But pretty much all the Big Ten schools. No, it actually was all the Big Ten schools. You know, Notre Dame. There were a couple schools from the SEC that were recruiting me. UCLA and USC. I could have gone to school just anywhere that I wanted to go. I mean, it just comes down to what fits you and your personality. I actually grew up and I liked Nebraska early on, but then I'm a tight end and they were running an option. That didn't make any sense. And then the other thing is I was always a Keith Byers fan. I grew up watching Keith Byers, and he was an Ohio State guy. So it was just, it's one of those things where, oh man, the guy that I watched when I was a little kid growing up, I get a chance to play, and it just worked out for me. When kids are making decisions, I tell them, we all have our allegiances and things that we like, schools we like, and where we went. But it's got to be the right fit for that kid and what they feel is best for them and their family.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Quick story about I got offered to play a couple different sports in college. I decided to play baseball at Oklahoma State, and when I went out there for my orientation, the coach at the time, Pat Jones, came in right after Jimmy Johnson was out at Oklahoma State, and Pat was like, "Hey, we need a backup quarterback." And at that time, we had two defensive tackles that were about 6'2", 6'3", about 300 pounds, and I'm there. They're doing their fall practice, and I watched them hit that quarterback a couple times, and I said, "I'm good. I think I'll stick with baseball." So that's kind of what made up my mind. But I had obviously local here, UD, baseball and football, and Oklahoma State. They eventually said, "Hey, we like you as a punter too. You can try." I'm like, "No, I'm good," because the punters are set up as well. But the reason the reason I say that story though is, were you just gung-ho about two sports from the get-go, and that was what you wanted to do, and that's what made your comfort zone, or?
Well, I just been doing it all my life.
Yeah.
I was a.
Why not? I guess why not some of the other sports? Why basketball and football?
Well, those are the ones that I was the best. I was the best at moving forward. I mean, I was a Nike All-American in basketball. And I played back then before these Under Armour games stuff. I played in the North-South and the Big 33 games in football. So I was in the biggest, those were the two places where I was at the biggest stage. Played on some pretty good AAU teams around the country. Played with some good guys. We had a really good team out of here out of Dayton, like myself, like Andy McCullough, who also played NFL. He played down at Tennessee. We played on the same AAU team. I played with a team out of Columbus one time. Played with Samaki Walker. We played on a team together, so I was able to do that. Then you go to the Big 33 games. A lot of my Ohio State teammates we played against Pennsylvania, but then we played against each other in the North-South game. So it was, it was what I was best at that point. It's probably because I stopped playing baseball. I was pretty good at baseball. My strike zone would have been ridiculous, being 6'8", but I was pretty good at that. But moving on, that's what made up in my mind.
We'll get into some of your Ohio State stories because you have some interesting ones. We were talking before the show. Obviously, John Cooper, known as being a great coach record-wise, one of the most successful Ohio State coaches ever, but he was usually unable to beat Michigan.
Yeah, that was his struggle.
And but you were on 2 teams that actually accomplished that feat.
Yeah, it was my freshman year coming in. We beat them in '94. And then in '98, my senior year on the way out.
He carries, blocking this time, middle, Lumpkin wide open. Touchdown, Ohio State. John Lumpkin.
It's kind of interesting, coming from Ohio State and obviously in the athletic department, with 2 sports. I think back to, Earl Bruce obviously had the nickname 9-3, and that's essentially what got him fired. But he had quite a bit of success against Michigan. But just on the other hand, Cooper had a great record, but just couldn't beat the team up north. So
yeah, you got to put them both together, or they're going to get rid of you. I mean, they say if you play long enough, you'll eventually get cut. If you coach long enough, you'll eventually get fired. Very few people get to pick and choose when they leave a sport. We tell our kids that all the time. Like, hey, this is temporary. You got to use this as a tool because someone's probably going to tell you when you're done playing. Yeah. Very rarely do you get to make that decision on your own.
You have a really fascinating story where you can go into more details, but you played in the Rose Bowl and then you did something else, flew across country, ended up playing in a basketball game against Michigan, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we actually won that game. We played in the Rose Bowl, '97 Rose Bowl. We won that game against Arizona State. Had a really good time that evening after the game. Then I caught a real early flight. It was myself and Jerry Emmett. We left LAX and flew to Detroit Metro. Then went on over to Ann Arbor and ended up playing in that game. And we ended up upsetting Michigan that year because they were, I forget what they were ranked, but Michigan was ranked, we weren't. But we ended up winning that game up there in Ann Arbor. So it was a interesting, 48-hour period. To play in the Rose Bowl, big time college football game, and then go and play in a basketball game the next day. So it was
it's an awesome feat, and that's to be able to change sports like that as well, because now they give the kids a week off in between sports and to readjust their muscles. What was that like, going straight from football to basketball?
Well, normally that's what would happen. Normally it would be the football would end and it'd be a couple days, like 4 or 5 days, and then I would go over. Because I only played in 2 non-conference basketball games in my career because the earlier games were still during football season. But it just so happened that this was a Big Ten game. And, they had at the time, God rest his soul, he's a good friend of mine. He's a Michigan guy. Rob Traylor was playing. And, as a guy at a guard, not that I was, stopping him from doing anything, but I could at least get in his way.
They called him the tractor for a reason.
Yeah, it was like, Rob was a heck of a basketball player, man. And, he had, unfortunately, he passed away early in life. But his cousin was actually, he's like my brother. His cousin's like my brother. He's a friend of mine that played football with me at Ohio State. But
who's that?
Larry Walton.
Okay.
He lives up in Detroit now. He's I was in his wedding. He comes down sometimes, and we all hang out. And I get with him in Detroit. Like I said, he's like my brother. And Rob and I were good friends. Off the court, we were trying to get him to come, to Ohio State. But he ended up going to Michigan. He's a Michigan Detroit guy. So. But yeah, that transition. Usually I did that, but then this so happened to be a Big Ten game. So flew out, and actually, warming up, I was like, I didn't know how it takes, it takes a while, but I was actually, hitting a lot of shots. And our assistant coach, Jerry Francis, told, Coach Ayers was like, Jerry, is he going to be able to go? He was like, man, put him in. And I was like, I said, while it's out, let's go now. Our trainer, he said, you're going to hit a wall at some point. And it was about a week and a half later, and I fell out in practice. And he was like, there's the wall. And it was because I didn't take that time off, but we had a really good staff up there to help make that transition.
And then after college, we'll get into your youth sports coaching and all the roles you have with Trotwood, but you had a cup of coffee with the New England Patriots pre-Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I was a undrafted free agent with the Patriots in '99. I actually made it through camp, so I was through camp camp, so it felt pretty good about, you know, everything going on. But then we had some injuries because at the time, you know, Ben Coates was the tight end. You weren't going to beat out Ben. Ben's a future Hall of Fame guy. But, you know, third and short, you know, I'm the guy come in, you know, we'll get these, you know, get these extra couple yards. Well, we were coming in for our practice. I got released, a couple different practices, and I got released right before opening week. But Teddy Bruschi actually tore his bicep. And then Andy Castleman was there, but then he hurt his back. So they weren't cutting their first round draft pick in Teddy Bruschi. And they're like, you know, hey, all right, hey, third and short tight end, you're out of there. So, you know, NFL is it's one of those things where you got to be you have to be good. Don't get me wrong, but you got to be in the right place sometimes at the right time. You got to
understand completely.
Yeah,
I was a second round pick in baseball, and you know, our first round pick, you know, me and him were fighting for the, you know, relief job in '94 out of spring training. Well, they paid him, you know, $600,000.
Yeah,
I only got $150,000. So
right, yeah. So yeah, this like we invested more than that.
Yep, that's usually the way it goes. They got their pecking order.
That's how it goes. And I always tell young guys, I'm like, look, if you want to get cut early, because then you can get picked up somewhere else. When you get cut game week, you know, and you're a rookie free agent, they're like, man, I don't have enough film on that guy. And you know, so but
then you're fighting for a practice squad or nothing really. Then at that point, right?
Yeah, and then did NFL Europe after that. NFL Europe was going on with Amsterdam Admirals. And, you know, when things don't work out, and you know, I have my degree and everything, and everything happens for a reason. And that's when I started off at State Farm, and then I was in Columbus, and then ended up back here and picked up, started doing some coaching and stuff like that.
And you're a financial planner now?
Yeah, I am. And for, you know, compliance reasons, we're not allowed to mention what they are, but right now, I'm a financial advisor for a firm here in Dayton.
And then it's a good transition with talking about the importance of playing three sports, and you're now active in all three as a baseball, basketball, and football as a coach. Tell us a little bit about that, how you're involved in the Trotwood system.
Well, we work real closely. My brother Aaron is actually the president of the Trotwood Wee Rams. And we work really closely with Jeff Graham and the program over there, so we can really be a feeder program into the high school system, just to build some continuity. Then we also use our youth sports to community build. We do a preseason tournament. We've actually partnered with Dunbar's program on that, so our side of town can actually have some unity and bring some people in. Last year at the Bob Driver Classic, we brought in, I think it was like 35 teams that came in. They were from grades K through 8. We had teams from Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Pennsylvania, Indianapolis, and then we've had some teams that from as far away as Oklahoma and Texas that have inquired about playing in it. So
this needs to be on the news.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Well, we tried to put it on the news, but they didn't come. They're like, we really can't do PB football, and it's we have a hard time on our.
They can't give a 20-second snippet on.
I mean, don't even get me started on that. I just, you know,
newspaper. I mean, come on.
If we were
that's the purpose of Dayton Sports Huddle, the online publication.
The thing is, we're the wrong program. That's what it is. We're the wrong program to put that on. If we were another program around town, then they'd be there.
What we need to do is we need to go and do a little segment. One of the goals that we're trying to do eventually is to do that. You know, it'd be a great thing to go out and just videotape and, you know, talk to all the people that are involved, but also do a little highlight. You know, that's what Damien does fantastic, and Dunn did it. So
yeah. So I mean, and it's a great thing for the community. It's a great thing for our kids. Our kids get a chance to play against kids they wouldn't normally play.
All the games at the Trotwood facilities, or do you mix them around?
No, they're actually at the Trotwood facilities. Like our home field is the old Trotwood Stadium, Bob Driver. So most of the games are played there, and then we have 2 fields that we played on there, and then we started it this year. Last year was the second year we did it, and the first night was on Friday. So on that Friday night, we played at the high school. We tied it into where our high school is playing Winton Woods, because Winton Woods is in our league. Our PB football basketball program, our league that we play in has got us and Dunbar and then a bunch of Cincinnati teams. Because none of the teams up here will play against us. And they won't let us in the league. And that's fine with us because our league has, we got better competition in our league. And it's really helped our kids. Go ahead. Say.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it's really nice. I mean, we had thousands of people show up to this event, and it was just great for the community, great for our kids, and great for kids all over the place. And we invited every team. My brother reached out to every program, as far north as Sydney, far south as Franklin, all the way over into Eaton, all the way over to Xenia, and everything in between. And the only team from Dayton that played in it were us and Dunbar, and Charlotte.
That's pretty impressive to have the leadership in that program with yourself, with your athletic background, and your brother played at Mississippi State, and of course Jeff Graham playing at Alder and in the NFL for several years, and Ohio State. So that's a pretty good testament to why Trotwood Madison's high school football team is a powerhouse. So I imagine the youth football has a lot to do with that.
Well, yeah, it's a continuity thing, and you build a sense of pride. Everybody is, everybody out there wants to be a part of Ram Nation, and we do a good job of promoting that, and promoting it the right way. I mean, we want to teach the game the right way. We emphasize academics first, then athletics, and we community build through our youth sports program. I mean, that's our future, and we go and we visit our kids in their schools. We work with their teachers and stuff, so we make sure that they're doing the right things first. And we teach them about being young men. It's not just about going out and playing football. The first thing we tell all of our parents and all of our kids, if you walk out of this program and the only thing you've learned how to do is be a better football player, then we fail. Because all those things come. And, one of my best moments ever, a kid, our first coach, I got invited to his wedding. And I mean, just to see him be successful, and now he got a family and all those things. That's what it's all about.
We build character, we raise champions, and that's what each and every one of these guys are. So give them a hand and give your parents a hand.
My brother runs a program, and then the two of us have two teams. So last year we had the third grade team and the fourth grade team. So our fourth grade team lost the game last year. We lost over at Dunbar. We hadn't lost a game in 3 years. So it was eye-opening and devastating for our kids, but we were able to come back and still win the championship after that loss in our league. But it's like, hey, it's not if you lose, it's how you respond to that. I mean, because some people tank, and I give it to our guys. They didn't tank. I mean, we turned it around. We came back and ended up winning. So
It's make a loss a motivating tool to say, hey, this is what we did wrong in this game. Let's not make those mistakes. Let's get better. Just like life and life lessons. We have situations that we all go through different things, and you can take it and use it as a positive, or you can take it. Some people bully grub, some people complain, and those type of things are not what you want. We were talking Pee Wee football. You also had mentioned that you're into other sports in the youth at Trotwood as well, correct?
Well, yes. Trotwood, I do Trotwood football. For basketball, I actually coach a team over out of Princeton, which is Team Dayton Blue. Then we also have a baseball team that is, there'll be 10-year-olds this year. So we resurrected one of the inaugural Negro League baseball teams, the Dayton Marcos. So we're an inner city baseball team. We're Dayton Marcos. We played in the Dayton City League. It was pretty good. It was we had my old high school basketball coach threw some sponsorship stuff at us. Then my LLC actually threw some sponsorship at it. And it was really good. I mean, not a lot of people know that one of the original Negro League baseball teams was from right here in Dayton. And to resurrect that is something.
Did you break out some old school uniforms? Or?
We actually did. We went and found out what their colors and stuff were, and then went and found what it looked like, and they were actually black and white is what their colors were. So we went and got some. That's our uniforms. We looked just like how they did. We had the D on the helmet and all that stuff. So
I like the names of those teams, because being a baseball, in the baseball history, and I know the museums in Kansas City, the Negro Baseball Museum and the Kansas City Monarchs.
Yeah.
And I know Indianapolis had a team that was...
Indianapolis had a team, New York, Cleveland had several, Columbus had one, Birmingham, in a lot of places. I mean, but if you haven't had a chance to see that museum in Kansas City, it's really something. And it's they've done really well. And I want to go back because now they're actually putting some baseball fields behind it.
And what's amazing about that, we're coming down to the final minute, but Jackie Robinson wasn't even remotely the best player in that league. There were several others who were better, but they thought he would be the best fit to handle all the derision that he was going to face. And that's just a fascinating part of maybe we could have you on again when you guys are playing in baseball season and maybe talk more about the history. That would be pretty fascinating.
Way back to 1920, man. We brought it back in 2018, so it's almost 100 years later.
Well, we're coming down to the final moments of the show. We appreciate you being on, John, and for being on, we'll be giving you a Submarine House gift certificate.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Or gift card.
You can't get mad at that.
No, all the TVs, the great food here, great place to watch sports. So March Madness is coming up, and it looks like Ohio State might be in it. They might sneak in it.
We might sneak in. We ain't gonna win, but you never know. You get determined, you never know. You just got to get hot at the right time.
And is there any do you have a presence with your youth sports on Facebook? If someone can find more information.
Yeah, you can actually go out. Trotwood We Rams actually has a site out there on Facebook, so you can also see that. And you can look us up if you just go out there and you Google John Lumpkin. You can get all of our contact information, and then get in contact with our youth organization. Because we would love to have some local teams participate in some of our stuff. Because we really put on quality events and we know what we're doing, and it's good for kids everywhere.
Okay. Well, we'll have you back on here in a few months, talk more, and appreciate your time, and thanks everyone for joining Dayton Sports Huddle. Be sure to visit us on Facebook, Dayton Sports Huddle, The Dish.
Jermaine steps up in the pocket, dumps it to his big tight end who's across the 35.
Touchdown, Ohio State. John Lumpkin, 41 yards, and the tight end puts the Buckeyes back ahead again.